under the owl's nest by the bookshelves.
We invite everyone to join us downstairs after service for coffee, snacks, and conversation.
Today we are handing out index cards because we want to know from you why you are coming to UCQC. What keeps you coming back? Please take some time to answer this question and to then return the card to our volunteers.
Thank you for joining us today.
That's my turn. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Reverend Sabrina Trupia, and I use they, them pronouns. We begin today with a call to worship by Reverend Sherry Woodbury. Now, this is a responsive reading, so it implies audience participation. And here's what we're going to do. I'm sorry. Prelude. There was a prelude before me. We're going to do that after Gates plays the prelude. That's why it wasn't, yeah. Thank you. And I'm sorry again, I forgot. So what I was saying is this requires audience participation. I'm going to divide the room approximately into two because this is a responsive chant. The people on my left, so this side-ish, will say, come in after I read the part that I read. And the other side, this side, to my right, will say, be among us. So let's try it. Come in. Be among us. So I will lead, I will say a phrase and then, okay, go. To all who are yearning for community. To all that are just getting started and can't turn the page. To all who long to go deeper. To all with tender places needing care. To the ones who have healed and have care to give, for those who are curious and hungry to learn, for those who know that they have something to teach, for the ones who are just beginning to suspect they might nurture each other's becoming, to the young and the old, the innocent and the jaded, the fresh of mind and the deeply steeped, there is room here for each and every one. As Zara lights our chalice, let's all recite the chalice lighting words. And yeah. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to inspire. And now please rise in body or spirit for our opening song, number 131 in the gray hymnal, Love Will Guide Us. The lyrics will also be projected on the screen.
In the spirit of fellowship, of love and fellowship, we now greet the holy in our midst. We briefly greeting those around us, especially those we do not know.
Thank you. Good job. Good job. Good job. That's okay. Don't worry
Well
about it.
done. You did good. It's okay. It's all right.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, we're going to play a game together this morning. So I need everybody, children and adults who would like to come play, to stand in a circle around me. So stand in a big circle. Make sure everybody has room. So back up. We want to move the fire back a little bit. Okay. Yeah, let's move it over a little bit because we're going to be moving. All right, back up, back up. So everybody has a spot in the circle. All right, because this involves a little bit of moving around. All right, so we're going to play a game called Friends and Neighbors. Yep, so I'm going to say, I love my friends and neighbors who, and then I'm going to shout out something that I like. And if somebody likes that as well, they're going to try and go to a new spot in the circle. And there's going to be one spot that's one person that doesn't have a spot. And then they're going to have to come in the middle and speak. Okay? All right, so ready? Yes. We're not going to run, and we're not going to knock anybody over. Okay? So let's make a tight circle, everybody. So squeeze in a little tighter. All right? So everyone has a spot. Make sure everyone has a spot. All right? Yeah. Yeah, here. Addie, move that over there. Well, I'm the first one. The person in the middle has to hold the mic. All right. So, and if you're in the middle, you're holding the microphone. Okay. So I love my friends and neighbors who like chocolate. New spot. Kaylee, you're just trying. Here, Kaylee. Nope, you don't have a spot. Go in the middle. All right. Now you say, I love my friends and neighbors.
I love my friends and neighbors who like cats.
Then you don't move. Oh, hurry up, find a spot. Find a spot. Find a spot, Glennon. You're not in a spot. All right, Addie. All right. Just because of mine. I love my friends and neighbors.
I love my friends and neighbors who like bananas.
Like what?
Bananas. Banana.
What? Yes. Okay. Oh. Zoe. Oh, and speaking of bananas, today we're going to learn about how bananas are made how bananas are collected in other countries and child labor. But here's Zoe. All right, Zoe.
I love my friends and family, dogs.
Who like dogs?
Who like
I guess I'll do. Yeah. Diane's in the middle.
All right. I love my friends and neighbors who love coming to UU.
We come together as a community to share the joys, the concerns, the sorrows, and the milestones of our lives. At this time of sharing, we take a moment to read your entries from the Book of Joys and Sorrows located at the table at the entrance of the sanctuary. There is one sorrow from Marcy Doyle. And please keep Marcy's sister and brother in thoughts and prayer, and also David Quay on his recovery journey. Are there any concerns or sorrows that were shared online? No. Nope. Okay. There are two joys today. One is from Alan Barchman in the production booth and the production team, thanking Earl, also in the production booth, for getting the new speakers. Don't they sound great? Thanks, Earl. And then there is one from Tom LeJudas, whose joy is to be greeted by Black History Month as we enter the building. Yes. Any joys from online? Okay. For what has been shared and what remains in the quiet sanctuary of our hearts, we are grateful. And now let us become aware of the energy that brings us together here in beloved community as we share a time of silent meditation. May we open our hearts and minds to a place of quiet and engage in silent prayer for the healing of pain and the balm of love. When the musical meditation begins, you're invited to come forward in silence and light a candle.
This congregation is a theologically diverse religious community with membership open to all who are in accord with our values, mission, and vision. Our congregation is entirely self-governed by the democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all of the financial support for our many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and our institutional well-being. This month's undesignated plate offering will go toward Allen's house. We invite you now to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of the congregation. Please be as generous as you are able. For all the gifts of time and treasure that you give this congregation, with sincere gratitude, we thank you. Our reading today is excerpted from a piece by Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen in the Unitarian Universalist Pocket Guide entitled Our Work for Social Justice. Many of us want to do the right thing, the just thing, the generous thing, and also to not have to give anything at all. We want to share our opinions, but not actually donate our evenings, our weekends, our doing dishes while on the conference call to get to understand the work enough to be able to offer meaningful thoughts. We want people to trust us and let us shape the vision, but not actually risk inviting folks out to tea, dinner, beer, or church to build a relationship that endures and carries us forward. We may want to post the cute meme without actually making the phone call to the city councilor or the state representative. We want to be part of that powerful, courageous, game-changing direct action without the long past midnight planned meetings, the messy decision-making, the frayed relationships, and the constant wondering if this is even worth it. We want to talk about being bound together in interdependence, but do not actually want to give our guest room to a stranger, give a paycheck to someone we've never met, or turn our schedule inside out to do what needs to be done. The word sacrifice might be too much mess for some of us, too tainted by oppression and coercion. What matters more is that we are willing to live our lives in the shape of what is being asked, not hope that what we are asked to do will fit the shape of our lives.
Good morning again. A lot has been going on since I was here last. Not a lot of it pleasant. I've listened to many people telling me that their life has become more overwhelming and that right now things are kind of a lot. And one of the things that I keep getting asked is, how do we keep the balance between feeling hopeful and engaging with what's going on? My answer is that really you can't keep a balance because those two things are not the same, not even close. But that doesn't mean that hope is out of reach or that we completely detach from reality. The thing is, in times like this, we need to cultivate our moral imagination. It is the moral imagination that will find a way out of what appears to be insurmountable or overwhelming. One way to do so is to dispel the idea or the concept that someone else will be the hero in our lives and will come and save us. There is no one that's going to do that. A while ago, I was talking to a relative of mine, and we were talking about climate change and the fires. And because I'm me, I started saying something like, oh, we must change before it's too late. You know, the sort of things you religious professionals would mention. To which she replied, but it's out of our hands. There is nothing we can do. We just have to hope that someone will decide to fix things for the better. Someone? Like, as in not us, someone else? As in I need a hero, like the song says? I confess that I absolutely loathe, speaking of which, our culture of heroes and superheroes. First of all, if it was ever valid, the concept of hero has become so diluted that it's meaningless because everybody's a hero of something. And then we aren't used to consider that sometimes the people we call heroes may become or be already the bad guy. And yeah, it's always a guy. Sorry. Case in point, there is this show on Prime Video called The Boys. Have you watched? Have you seen it? The premise is that there are real superheroes in the world, and they work closely with the government, and they only seem good on the outside at first, but in reality, they're corrupt, self-interested, and you know, pretty soon it becomes kind of evident how bad they are. Anyway, most of us realize that watching the show. But the tragic thing that happened is that some fans of the show didn't notice and started thinking that this show was really about superheroes. And not until the third season of the show that they started figuring out that one of the characters, a character called Homelander, was truly evil. I mean, how isn't it obvious to all that a character called Homelander is the bad guy? I mean, come on. The first two seasons, you can accept that the clues were sort of light and subtle. But then in the third season, and I'm not going to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, the writers of the show made it absolutely impossible to mistake Homelander for a real superhero. And this would be funny if something like this wasn't currently playing out in real life or with some of the people inhabiting the new administration's cabinet. I guess some people are gullible. That's why I don't like it. I find that superheroes and heroes encourage us to do away with moral imagination. Hero worship is a solitary practice, a selfish one that speaks to not having any power inside our own lives. Our Unitarian heritage is some superheroes too, doesn't it? Thoreau, Whitman, Emerson. Do we know anything about these three? They're all famous for being rugged individualists. But if you look at their true history, the history of that community in the 1800s, all three of these characters benefited from the embrace of community, except You wouldn't know it by reading Walden, of course. I don't intend to diss our Unitarian legacy. Their legacy we still cherish, and for the most part, it's something that we still talk about today. But individualism is what gave us this idea of the hero, the savior. And by the way, I also don't like the idea of saviors as it is portrayed by popular culture and superficial Christianity. That's kind of a hero too, but if you read the Gospels closely, the OG Savior, Jesus Christ, spends most of his time trying to prepare the disciples to pass on his message after he's gone. He tells them that they would have his blessing, but that he wasn't going to be there forever. And they had to be prepared to heal the sick and help the poor when he was gone. He knew his time was limited, not necessarily because he was the Son of God and knew all, but because he was a revolutionary and he was chased by the then police people. The Gospels can be read, if you will, as the story of Jesus dealing with the ineptitude of his disciples to learn what's going on and trying to teach them. In fact, Peter, the name Peter means rock because obviously not too bright. Seriously. You can look it up. But here's the thing, y'all. I do think Jesus is a savior because imitating his behavior saves us. Not in the afterlife either. Following his example saves us from greed, from apathy, from not seeing the worthiness of all humanity. Jesus is a model of behavior, a good role model among many. And a role model per se does not save you, but shows you how to save yourself. Modeling good behavior is at the root of good parenting, at the root of peer-led programs like recovering, also teaching, also pastoring, shared pulpit, share ministries. You name it. Because when we don't know what to do, we want an example. Someone relatable that we can emulate. Someone that can jumpstart our moral imagination. Be right back. Okay, I didn't make this poster, but just as Tom was happy to see all the Black History Month people, this is so appropriate. Because Shirley Chisholm was a congresswoman, the first Black woman to be in the House Rules Committee, and the first Black woman to run for president in 1972. This poster says you don't make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas. Amen to that. She knew that she couldn't win the Democratic nomination, but she ran anyway. Her story is or should be an example to many. It mustn't have been easy for her to keep campaigning all the way to the Democratic convention, knowing she wouldn't even be close to getting the nomination. She did get 10% of the delegates, though, you know. She was mocked a lot in the press by other Democrats, and yet she kept at it. Persisting against the odds is something that role models do, even when they know they cannot change a lot, because they can see that another world is possible. In fact, the title of the sermon, "The World That Does Not Yet Exist," is paraphrased from something Shirley Chisholm once said. One time she was asked in an interview, why did she run for president if she knew their candidacy would go nowhere? And she said that she was running for the America that does not yet exist, for the America that does not yet exist. She saw the possibility of a better way, and whether she realized it or not, she was modeling hope. The hope she modeled, this hope is a seed we plant. This hope turns into creativity to see the possibilities instead of seeing obstacles. Or maybe the ability to see both the possibilities and the obstacles. But there's another piece to cultivating our moral imagination. Role models are great, and that they're a piece. There's another piece. This piece has to do with what we think we can do, what we want to do, and what we think we'll be asked to do, which was the topic of the reading. Yeah, I said, well, we think we will be asked to do because many of us envision that the things that we're supposed to do for liberation involve at a minimum tedium, if not downright pain and difficulties, right? I mean, we just read it in the reading about some of us want to do the right thing but feel really uncomfortable with taking the first step to doing it, right? That's because making a different world is a difficult task. We have to put ourselves into it. Activism, or making the world a better place in general, requires commitment. And the reading pointed that out. But the reading didn't really say that to live our lives in the shape of what is being asked must necessarily be unpleasant. And so what if we looked at this difficulty differently? Not from the point of view of sacrifice, which was mentioned in the reading, but from the point of view of fulfillment. Activism, after all, requires us to have a vision and to be passionate about an issue, or two or three or all of them. And this means we're willing to go through the difficulty. So what if instead of what can I do, like my relative asked, we could paraphrase author and activist Tony Cade Bambara. How do we make the work of justice irresistible? How do we find the spark that allows us to keep going and create a joyful world full of possibilities? How do we imagine the better world that does not yet exist? So there's a short answer to that and a longer one. I'm going to do both of them. I think I have time. The short answer is one word: solidarity. The joyful work of liberation can only be done in solidarity with others. When we work together, burdens are lightened, joy is multiplied. To get to the world that does not yet exist, we need to look for the community around us. And yet, most of us are isolated, we don't know each other, and when we do, we don't see eye to eye. So this is the longer answer. At this point in history, we people with privilege, those of us that, watch things happen from a distance so far, not, perhaps live separated like in the suburbs where there isn't a lot of walking around. Us, I was saying, we are reaping the results of being safely cocooned in our little pods and echo chambers. And we've come to believe that this is our natural state, that we don't really need to feel connected to one another. And this is not true, but this is what it's encouraged by society. We're so far removed from each other, from nature, from affecting anything, that solidarity feels like a mirage. We think maybe a better world is possible, but it sure feels like a lot. If we want to start, where do we start? Author S. Bear Bergman this week wrote an article on Medium entitled What You Can Do Right Now for Your Trans and Non-Binary Friends, Family, Students, and Colleagues. It's a longish piece with lots of good advice for those who want to be cis allies in these trying times. But I think that some things are more broadly applicable. I mean, since all oppression is intersectional, all solidarity must be too. Bear says, it's time to embrace being awkward for now and get serious about building community in real time with real people who are not in the various glowing rectangles we look at all day, but are at our actual kitchen tables. Of course, it seems extremely awkward, absolutely. No one has been doing this very much recently, and frankly, it has been going out of style anyway. Everyone is going to be awkward. It's fine. Have extremely awkward brunches or extremely awkward dinners where everyone makes their own pizza or rolls their own sushi rolls, so at least there is an activity. That's what he said. And I agree, extending ourselves to make community, it's awkward. I mean, for us introverts, of course, but I know that even for extroverts, a cold call is not always easy. But I recently had an experience that started out awkward and ended up being a true source of comfort. Back where I live in the town of Edwardsville, Illinois, I was invited to a meeting, a friend bring a friend type of thing. Honestly, I'm an introvert. It was on a Wednesday at 4 p.m., kind of an awkward hour. It promised to feature a lot of people I didn't know because friend bring a friend, so you don't know the friend of the friend of the friend. It was at a bar, not my favorite establishment for meetings because I don't drink. So I was trying to come up with excuses not to go. But I went because of two reasons. One, because my friend asked me. And two, I really believe that community and mutual aid are the way out of whatever this is that's going on, right? This predicament we find ourselves in. So I went. And guess what? It was awkward. It was especially terrible because, as I said, I don't drink, and that bar is also like a food place, but I wasn't planning on eating there. So I sat at this giant table nursing a diet Sprite while everyone else was having burgers or beer or burgers and beers. Awkward. But as Bear suggested in that reading that I just read, we coalesced around an activity, also an awkward one, going around the table introducing ourselves. And so we broke the ice and we started chatting. And pretty soon we kind of knew each other and we knew people in common. And we started to talk about other things we could do together. Camping when the weather is better. Another meeting next month. Running for city council, that was mentioned. And we got connected, and by the time I left, I felt right. Yesterday, a message pinged my phone reminding me that that group exists, that we will meet again and be in community again and be awkward together again. We have each other. It was what I needed after a kind of a difficult week that I had. And I have seen solidarity here at UUCQC too. After the election, after the inauguration, you got together right here to help each other, venting, coping, and supporting each other. And I am hearing these type of gatherings might continue on a regular basis. This congregation has shown up and continues to show up for members who need help with a meal or a ride or company. You are creating a new world of solidarity with your actions. You're making it happen. No heroes are coming to save us. We are all we have. But when we are together, and when we use our moral imagination to create a world that does not yet exist, we are all we need. May it be so. And now please rise in body or spirit for our closing song, number 311 in the gray hymnal, Let It Be a Dance. The lyrics will also be projected on the screen. Please remain lifted up as we extinguish the chalice and join in the unison reading. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
If you may be seated. If you have an announcement for Sunday service, please send it to office@uucqc.org by 12 noon on Thursday before the service. We have a few announcement items. At General Assembly this past June, the Unitarian Universalist Association passed an action for immediate witness in support of Palestine and a call to educate ourselves about the Israel-Palestine conflict. With that in mind, the Board of Trustees and the Social Justice Committee ask you to please save the date of March 8th. The film is The Occupation of the American Mind, narrated by Roger Waters of Pink Floyd fame. Journalist David Zirin and The Nation magazine calls it a vital and unmissable film. We encourage you not to miss it. The Board of Trustees announces that a long-term rental agreement has been negotiated with a local yoga instructor who will be leasing the community room space in that end of the building, including the office, halls, and bathrooms. We will be using the space until 2/17, at which time her lease takes effect. The instructor is Becky Nakashima Brook, who is familiar to us. She used to be an RE assistant, and she's taught yoga here for a while. Oh, sorry about that. Well, the lease starts the 17th, but she's starting to move in the 15th. We realize that this reduces our space options, so we appreciate your grace in helping to coordinate that. But we're pleased to generate some additional revenue stream. Her company is called Illuminate Healing Studio, LLC. We're also seeking a volunteer, so think about this, to step into the role of rental coordinator for the UUCQC. Your job would be to schedule a time to take people on short tours of the property upon request, coordinate the calendar with the office administrator, and finalize the contracts. This could include people scheduling weddings, parties, classes, concerts, or more. It would include working with members and friends of the congregation as well as private parties from outside the church. Contact me with questions or if you're interested. Lastly, we'll be reinstating a policy we had in the past for security. You may or may not be aware that we used to lock the entry door about 15 minutes after we start the service. Someone is always in the back to let in late arrivals, but of course none of you are ever late arrivals, right? And then we unlock the doors after the end of the service. Finally, let me draw your attention to the additional announcements printed at the back of your order of service. No, I did not. I'm sorry. Thank you, Steve. I'm sorry. I'm caught on things. We do have some furniture remaining in the office that used to be the RE office. We have a large business desk. We have a lot of file cabinets. We are looking for volunteers who want to take those items home with them, or if you know another good place to donate them. Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I just didn't want you to. We close with words by Reverend A. Powell Davis. None of our private worlds is big enough for us to live a wholesome life. We need the wider world of joy and wonder, of purpose and venture, of toil and tears. What are we, any of us, but strangers and sojourners forlornly wandering through the nighttime until we draw together and find the meaning of our lives in one another, dissolving our fears into each other's courage, making music together and lighting torches to guide us into the dark. We belong together. Go in peace. You may be seated for the postlude.
if you still have a note card, you can put it in the basket. The instructions were to write what keeps you coming back to UU on the note card, or why you come to UU. Thanks.